Confirm that.
Yes.
All right, let's call this meeting to order. The Madison Board of Assessors, Monday, April 27th, 2020 at Avenue School, 6 p.m. Please join me to the flag.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let the record show all assessors are present. Acceptance for the meeting minutes of December 9th, 2019.
Move to accept.
Second. A motion and a second to accept the meeting minutes of December 9th, 2019. Any questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? All in favor, the motion carries. Old business, Mr. Moody.
For me, with school eyes, I have none.
Seven. All right, new business. Number one, update appeal status, MPI Eagle Creek. Mr. Manager.
Thank you. Just wanted to give an update. Dave Silk, our attorney, has talked pretty much every 2 or 3 weeks with the clerk of the court in Somerset County. Obviously, with COVID-19 restrictions, the courts are pretty much closed to non-emergency matters. Dave keeps reminding them that we're in the middle of our budget season and we'd like to know if the judge has rendered a decision in the Madison paper appeal. But as of today, we still haven't heard anything on that. We know the judge has the information. He has not called for any other action from either us or John Block. So we're just waiting for him, hopefully, to release a written decision and hopefully in our favor.
So there's no other court proceeding except for him giving a decision.
Right. This is if he wanted oral arguments, he would have asked for that. And Dave feels he hasn't done that. So Dave assumes he's just going to write a written decision. Eagle Creek, in your packets, I had included an email exchange from Eagle Creek's lawyer to Dave Silk and from Dave Silk back. And Eagle Creek has missed the official deadline for filing an appeal for no action taken by the town to offer them an abatement. If you recall, back in December, they had asked for an abatement of $10 million. The valuation in Madison is about $42 million. So they were asking for a value down to $32 million. The board reviewed it. The board took no action. The board was waiting for more information. They did not provide that information, and to this date, they still haven't provided all the information. So it went past the deadline and it was deemed denied. And they are, Eagle Creek, saying, well, we're still trying to work with you guys. And so they have offered to have a video meeting to explain their position. So Dave Silk is in the process of trying to set that up. Right now, myself, Al, and Shirley are going to try to be on that Zoom meeting to listen to what they have to say. But I had a good conversation with Shirley today, and we looked at some of the numbers to make sure that we're kind of on the same page as to where Anson is coming from for their valuation, so that we're on the same page on both sides of the river. I was told, now this hasn't been confirmed, but I was told that Eagle Creek has dropped their abatement request in Anson. So it kind of makes sense. If you're going to do one, you do both. So we'll wait and see where that happens. I don't believe that we're in any position or really have any reason to drop their valuation that much. We will, however, take into consideration a lowering in energy prices and the fact that you're one more year removed from when they purchased the assets. So there will be a slight adjustment, I imagine, but not anything to the degree of what they're looking for.
You're talking about an adjustment for the 2021 versus
Correct.
Going back.
Right. We're not recommending any abatement, any going back. Our conversations with Omaha Creek will only be for what the value is this year and going forward. So if they want to go backwards, they're going to have to file for another appeal. And right now they haven't done that. Okay, so that's all I have for those updates under number one.
Okay. Number two, discuss abatement requests. Letter A, account number 12, Matt 001, lot 01950, Mountain View Road.
Okay. Going back maybe a month, maybe even 6 weeks, we had a request from Skowhegan Savings Bank. This is the property formerly owned by Anthony Schuster at the top of Mountain View Road, a lot of land and a large house. It fell into bank foreclosure, and now Skowhegan Savings is in the process of trying to sell it. Prior to this year, it was valued at $615,000, $800,000. A couple of people had approached Shirley about looking at it because of the condition of it. The condition had fallen off quite a bit, and it hadn't been revalued in a while. So last fall, Shirley went out and made some adjustments to the condition of the property. And as a result, the valuation as of today going forward is $464,000. So it was about $151,000 adjustment made to that property. So in your agenda, I put some notes. From what I was able to gather from representatives of Skowhegan Savings and Van Ames, who is the realtor, Skowhegan Savings has about $360,000 tied up in this property. The listing is for $399,900, and Van says they have an offer of about $340,000. Right now, he's cut his commission back. I think it's normally 6 or 7%. That's about a $17,000 commission. So as it stands right now, the Skowhegan Savings will end up losing about $37,000. What they've asked us to do is to consider abating the 2019 taxes and the 2018 taxes down to the valuation that is currently $464,000. So in your packets, there should be a sheet, a separate sheet that has just this property on it.
When you say they, you talking about the realtor or you talking about the bank?
Skowhegan Savings.
Okay.
Skowhegan Savings, who technically would be considered the owner of the property now because they've taken it by foreclosure from the estate of Schuster. You know, originally when I did talk to the realtor, Van Ames, he was hoping to get somewhere in the neighborhood of $10,000 or $12,000 worth of abatements. And I said, no, I said, I wouldn't go back any further than the unpaid taxes, which are the 18s and the 19s. The bank paid the 17s to keep it out of our foreclosure. So what I told Van Ames is I'd bring to the board those 2 years, the 19 taxes and the 18 taxes. So you'll see there a reduction of $151,000 in value would be a $3,219.38 abatement for 19s and a $3,257.25 abatement for 18. So a total abatement of $6,476.63. So that's what I bring before you.
Will this abatement get the property sold?
According to Van Ames, it will help close the deal. My assumption, I can't speak for him, but my assumption is he would probably negotiate more of his commission if there was room that needed to get the deal done.
Mr. Moody.
So if we did this $6,400 or $6,500, that would be if that piece sells. If that piece does not sell, that goes away.
Well, I don't know if you can do that. I mean, I don't know if you can. I don't know if you can do a conditional abatement. If you did that, then I guess we would have to process it and say, go back to Van and say, okay, the assessors are willing to do $6,400, and ask him if that gets the deal done. And if it gets the deal done, then we'd have to come back to another assessors meeting and make that official.
I guess I'm missing something here. This $6,400 abatement, $6,500. We're supposed to write a check, and what's going to happen to the money?
Essentially,
Where does this money go?
So right now, for the closing to take place, if they sell the property, Skowhegan Savings has to write a check to the town for all taxes.
Oh, so the taxes have not been paid.
That's correct. So the 18s and 19s have not been paid. So this would basically come off it would make, let's say they owe $24,000 in taxes, about 12 a year. So basically this $6,500 would come off of that $24,000 that the bank has to pay at closing. So it reduces the bank's loss, essentially.
Well, I look at it this way, if this house was over assessed, now they're paying tax on an assessment of $464 right now.
Going forward, they will. The old taxes of 19 and 18 were at $615.
$615. So why shouldn't we say, why give it all 1 year? Why should we reduce it a little bit for 18 and then a little bit for 19, or 19 down to 18? I mean, it looks to me like, I mean, if we went back to everybody's home, I mean, what would happen if we reassessed everything? Oh, wait.
Well, we are doing this on a case-by-case basis. Just about every time a new owner acquires a property and they look at their tax bill and they looked at what they acquired it for, they usually call Shirley and say, this is $70,000. I just bought it for $30,000. And Shirley goes in and takes a look at the condition and says, oh, we had this listed at average or above average. It really should be below or poor, which is what happened with Schuster's house. It was above average for years. So
he should have been grabbing about it.
he should have been, but
At that time, it was in good condition, though, right? I mean,
right, it has fallen off.
Right.
Well, it didn't fall off all in 1 year, is what I'm saying.
But the last time he paid taxes on it was 4 years ago.
All right, what's our pleasure?
Is this property still like on the road for something like that for a tax reduction for the state?
There's a significant amount of acreage in it, and I think I brought that with me.
How does that change with a new owner that's not a farmer, or does it?
It doesn't. It's all about the land. It's just entered in.
So I could be a farmer on my property?
You could. He has 21 acres in what was considered to be pasture. Even if you're not farming it and it's available for another farmer to grow hay on, even if they're not doing that, it's still eligible for farming use. So look into that. Save you some money.
That's okay.
And then he's got.
We're good. That's okay. I'm just curious.
If I understand you correctly, if this sale does not go through, that $6,500 still stays there for the next person, right?
It will stay there until someone pays the taxes. And we're assuming that will happen when the transfer is done, when the deal is done. If this deal doesn't go through, then Skowhegan Savings is still going to keep it on the market. They're still going to try to sell it. Eventually, somebody's going to buy it. It all depends. Really, you're just trying to help make a deal done and save the bank from losing any more money in this transaction.
If we don't move this 464 could go down even lower because there's not going to be anything new done to the place.
Well, that's
over a period of time.
That's a good point. I mean, it will continue to deteriorate if nobody buys it.
It's going to go down anyway. What's going to happen is when the bank sells it at 340, that's exactly what the new guy's going to come in and see Shirley about. So no matter how you look at it, it's going to go down anyway.
Quite possible. Unless they plan to do a lot of work. They plan to put a couple $100,000 in, it'll go back up.
Well, this amount we're supposedly abating is for the 464.
That would bring it down to that level of 464 valuation.
So we're going to get down to 464 right now.
We are at that right now going forward. This abatement would go back to make it right for the last 2 years.
At 615.
At 464.
No, it was 615 or whatever.
Right. That's what those taxes were based on in 19 and 18 was 615. This abatement would reflect the value at 464.
And next year we're going to take another hit after it sells for 340.
It's up to the owner then.
Yeah, well, come on.
But like I said, if somebody buys it and they plan to put a couple $100,000 into it to renovate it, that value is going to come back.
How did the 464 get derived? I mean, apparently that's fair market value, I'm assuming. They went with the 340.
Usually when Shirley goes in and does this, and Shirley, you can chime in, but I have your valuation report here.
Okay, well, I think I changed the condition for one thing, because it had deteriorated quite a lot.
The biggest thing, what Shirley just said, the biggest thing is the condition. And I'm gonna, right now, at 464, it's listed at below average condition. I'm gonna guess it probably was above average condition and had been there since 2001.
I guess the answer I'm looking for is on what George is saying. If someone buys this tomorrow, there's no reason to go to 340,000, even if that's what they pay for it, because Shirley just determined it's worth 460.
Yeah, that's correct.
No, they could ask, but it's probably not warranted.
Okay.
All right, so we're looking for a motion.
Make the motion.
Good, now second.
Yeah, I'll make a motion.
Okay, well, and Flash?
Now
All
second.
right, we have a motion and a second to abate
64, 7, 60, 63.
account 12, 50 Mountain View Road for $6,476.
Okay, so we're not cutting anybody a check now. We're just taking
No.
off. I want to make sure. I'm
So,
going to say, was it 6,500?
so right now, if Scout Savings were to call and say, we got a deal, what's the payoff? Kathy would look it up, and it would be 25,000. Once this abatement's done and Kathy puts the abatement into the system and Scout Savings calls and says, what's the payoff? What's going to be 18,000, whatever the difference would be after you reduce that.
So you guys are going to have to remember after me and Jack are gone, you keep your eye on this property, make sure it don't go down 340.
All right, seeing no other questions, all those in favor? 4 in favor, and 1 abstention. We have 4 in favor, 1 abstention, the motion carries. All right, let's move on to, let's see, all right, let's move on to B, account 1971.
In your packet, you have a list that has B, C, D, and E. In other words, you'll have Joe Hayden's account, Barrington Morris, Shannon Gross, and 2 years for Paul Willett. No. And I can.
You want me to read them all? And then we'll-
Nope, I've got them. They'll all be recorded in the minutes.
All right,
If you,
anybody see those? Joe Hayden, Barrington Morris, Shannon Gross, Paul Willett, 2 times.
so what I can do is give you a brief description on these abatements that Shirley has worked up. This property for Hayden, this is Joe's dad's property. That a parcel of it was sold out on Lakewood Road. And when it was split, we made a mistake and we put site improvements on the part that the Haydens retained, but there are no site improvements on it. It's just a vacant lot. So Shirley made the adjustment and reduced it by 11.4. Barrington, in a transfer, removed 3 acres from his property. So that's a slight adjustment of about $2,400. And gross, and you'll see this conveyed on the supplementals. The Richardsons, who owned the property at the corner of Houghton Street and Madison Ave, they had their house, that huge barn, and a mobile home all on one parcel. When they sold it, they split it. But we didn't convey the split. We transferred everything to Shannon Gross. So to make that right, we need to abate $53,000 in value back to Shannon Gross and then charge her a supplemental tax. And you'll see that on the supplemental taxes. And also charging Ron and Nicole Richardson their portion of the property that before they sold it to someone else. So Paul Willett, his account was deleted back in 2017 after some adjustments had been made, so he shouldn't have been being taxed. But when we did a trio software update, resurrected his account, and so he was sent 2 tax bills that he shouldn't have been sent. So Shirley has made the adjustments on that. So if the board has any questions, we'll be glad to try to answer them, but I think they're all these 4 are pretty straightforward.
A motion to abate.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion to abate accounts 1971, account 350, account 1040, and account 3350 twice, for a total of $2,575.88. Any other questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? All in favor, the motion carries. Let's see. Where are we? Okay, so let's move down to 60.
Letter F is account number 60.
Yep.
The only reason I bring it up to the assessors is if you wanted to take any action on it tonight. It's a piece of property, and I've highlighted the map a lot there to help you realize where it is. So Carter Road and Jones Street kind of run together between Schuster Road and where MEW has their power station on Jones Street. This parcel of property, and it runs right next to CMP's line, and lot 42 right above it, that's Campbell's Lumber. So it abuts up to the back of Campbell's Lumber. These people bought this property from Val Roy several years ago, and have really never followed up on it. I believe the original owner has passed away, and his family really is not interested in it. As you can see, the taxes are only about $160 a year. They haven't been paid. It's fallen into foreclosure, and no one has responded to our letters, even though they have signed for them. So we know they're getting the letters, but no one has stepped forward to claim it. I talked with Jeff Wright, and it's very difficult to get to, because if you've ever been down Jones Street past the substation, it's pretty hard to traverse. And I don't think you can get there very easily from Parker Road. It's my recommendation that the town just kind of hold on to this land for a while. We don't rush to sell it. It may be something that's valuable to CMP. It may be something that Roy wants. It may be something Madison Electric can work with. Maybe some value of trees on it. We don't know. But if the town wants to keep it, if the board wants to keep this property, I would recommend, rather than just interest accruing on this $600, that they abate the value, and we have Shirley take this account and put it into the town's name. And so that's my recommendation.
That's my motion.
All right, we have a motion and a second to abate $638.94 on, let's see, 60 on Jones Street, and turn it into, we have to do that, turn it into town-owned property.
No, it's already town-owned property.
Okay.
Yeah, we just would have Shirley change the name on the account and make it exempt.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor? All in favor, motion carries. Let's move down to discuss supplemental taxes. Account 3410.
I would do these at the same time because they both pertain to the same original parcel of property.
3410, account 3410, and account 1042.
So, as we mentioned in the abatements, the corner of Houghton Street and Madison Avenue, the former Richardson property, has now been split into two. And so these two supplementals, one will go to Shannon Gross, where she will pay what she should have paid correctly in taxes. And the other will go to Ron and Nikki Richardson, who were the owners at the time. There are new owners there, but they didn't take possession until May of 2019, after the 2019 taxes.
Moving forward, those are all, that everything there has been corrected.
Yes, it's all straightened out now.
So we're looking for a motion to send a supplemental tax bill to Shannon Gross, account 3410, and Nicole Richardson for 1042.
So moved.
We have a motion and a second to send these supplemental tax bills. Any questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? All in favor, motion carries. All right, number 4, discuss tree growth penalties. Account 294, 295.
Yes. So this should be about the last page of your packet. So back in December, if you remember reviewing the minutes, there were 5 different accounts that Shirley had sent out tree growth penalties to. And 2 of them are owned by Valerie Hubner. I put the map lot on there so you can see they're on both sides of East Madison Road. They're 2 separate lots. One she has her house on, the other is just a lot with the tree growth on it. So she had let her tree growth plan lapse in 2018. They're only good for 10 years. She did in 8, and then in 18 it was out. We had sent her some mailers. She didn't respond. We're come to find out she lives most of the year in Mexico and only checks her mail when she comes back in the summertime. She even noticed that she had a certified mailer at the post office, but had no way of getting it because the post office won't forward to Mexico. So that was her explanation. And what she has told me is she is planning to have a forester come out and redo the plan. But she's asking if the board would be willing to forgive one of the 2 $500 penalties. She was in a rare case where she has 2 lots. She could have years ago tried to combine them into 1 lot, but she didn't bother to do that. So she has 2 lots, 2 tree growths, 2 $500 penalties. She's appealing to the Board of Assessors. What I recommend is that it might be fair to say we will abate one of these $500 penalties when we get your completed tree growth plan, and not do it before you receive that. I just leave that before the board and see what you'd like to do.
And when would you expect that?
She told me she had a forester online right now, so I would hope that, and this is something I'll give credit to Shirley and Deb in the office. They've done a very diligent job cleaning up our tree growth accounts. To have these down just to 2 or 3 ones that, have the documentation. So I would hope that we would stay on it and have it in a few months. So.
Is this penalty because she's been out of the country and has forgotten about this and whatnot?
Yeah. From what Shirley and I discussed earlier today, Bill Van Dyke had a similar issue with her back in 2004, 2005, where she let it lapse then, ran a few years, paid the penalty, and then had to redo the one in 2008. That's why, people own land and they have the benefit of tree growth. It's their responsibility to make sure their plans are updated every 10 years. So that was certainly part of her excuse when she said, well, I'm in Mexico and I don't get the mail and so forth. I can understand that, but I also understand that you're getting a substantial benefit. And one of the things that happens is if she doesn't respond and get this done, then when we commit taxes this year, it'll be out of tree growth and she'll have to pay all that. So,
Does she have to pay like a penalty if you sell a piece?
well, right. And we've ran into that. If she does sell a piece of that parcel, then she has to take it out of tree growth, and that's pretty substantial.
What I'm saying is it's allowed if we don't file a plan. If that was my list, and I didn't file a plan, I paid $500 and that's it.
No, then you'll be taxed as if it's not in tree growth.
You pay another $500 penalty first, though.
Okay, so there's a subsequent $500 penalty if you don't file again.
And it takes the whole process takes over a year. So they have 120 days for the first notice, and then 6 months, and then 6 months again. And it includes 2 $500 penalties. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. And then we can remove it. So we have to go through that process.
Okay. I'll make that a motion that we, upon receiving her plan, will forgive one $500 penalty.
I have a motion, a second. Upon receiving the plan from account 294 and 295 to abate or forgive one of the penalties, $500.
And I will just add into that motion, including any fees and interest.
Any other questions?
Just look at this, I mean, her village goes Farmington, you said she lives in Mexico, but she's eligible for homestead exemption?
No.
No, there's no home. Well, is there?
Yeah, she does have it. Well, she does have it, and we have talked to her about that. And we've called Farmington. She has it in Farmington as well. She says she thinks she's entitled to it in Madison. I don't believe she is. She does once on occasion register a vehicle in Madison, but I am going to remove it for this year. Deb and I have had the conversation with her, and she believes she should have it, but I don't think so.
If she has it in Farmington, she can't have it in Madison.
She has it in Farmington,
Right.
and she does register vehicles in Farmington.
Okay,
So that's coming off of.
yes,
Yes.
I'm gonna put that.
All right, seeing no other questions, all those in favor? All in favor, the motion carries. Assessors concerned, Mr. Moody,
None, Mr.
Mr.
Chairman.
Elias? You know, you, Sean? I just have one, on, our vote, the minutes, that reflects that I abstained, because I was part of that meeting. Okay. Citizens' concerns from our camera?
For those who just joined us, we're just finishing up an assessors meeting. We'll be starting the selectmen's meeting in a few minutes.
Anybody else, any concerns? Seeing none, we're looking for motion to adjourn.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to adjourn. All those in favor? All in favor, the motion carries. We are adjourned at 6:32. All right, ready to roll over? All right.
Stand up again.
I'd like to call this meeting of the Madison Board of Selectmen to order on Monday, April 27th, 2020 at Old Point Avenue School at 6:30 PM or 6:33 PM, I guess. Please join me in saluting the flag.
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
For the record, Chair Wallace, who are not present. Okay, consent agenda, warrants number 45 dated 4/13/2020, payroll register number 15 dated 4/9/2020, number 16 dated 4/16/2020, number 17 dated 4/23/2020.
Move to accept.
Motion and a second to approve the warrants and payroll registers as read. Any questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? All in favor, the motion carries. Pole placement permit for CMP on the golf course road.
Jeff, have you, any questions or concerns about the pole placement on golf course? Once Tammy.
Nope, everything's all good. I'm still in training here, bear with me. No, everything's all good. All that are is just 2 replacement poles, that's all.
All right.
All right, thank you.
Put that being down and answer our questions.
All right. Looking for a motion?
So moved.
Second. Motion and a second to grant a pole placement permit for CMP on golf course road. Any other questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? All in favor, the motion carries. Liquor license application, Curtain Up Enterprises, doing business Lakewood, at Lakewood Inn Theater.
This is pretty standard fare. There are actually 2 licenses you can approve in one motion. One is for the restaurant and the other is for the theater itself.
I move to grant.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to grant a liquor license to Curtain Up Enterprises, Lakewood Inn Theater, and Lakewood Inn and Lakewood Theater. Any questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? All in favor, the motion carries.
I'm sure Mr. Elias knows he's just getting a picture page. So.
On what? All right, discuss
I mean, liquor
acceptance of
license.
meeting minutes from April 13th, 2020.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve the minutes from April 13th, 2020. Any questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? All in favor? Old business, Mr. Moody,
None, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Elias,
I have none, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Savage, Mr. Newsome. I have none. Items of communication, town manager.
I really like this big new desk I've got because I've got
Spread out.
I've got stuff everywhere. And you guys are all busy signing stuff, so.
One signature?
Yeah, right in the top right.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm just kind of keeping an eye on those liquor licenses so I can make sure I get them all back to Kathy the right way. Now, people can't keep texting me while I'm trying to do this. Jack and Dave need to speak louder. Okay, that's a comment from the public. Okay.
All right.
All right, items of communication. So I want to update the board.
I've never been told that. Talk louder. Never.
Just a couple things to try to update the board on. One, code enforcement, how things are going in code enforcement. Lee Mayo is our alternate code officer. He has been meeting with folks. He's been issuing permits in the office. The weather has gotten better. People are interested in doing some additions, mobile homes, plumbing permits, that sort of thing. So far, so good. Leo's been able to keep up with everything. And basically, I'm fielding all the calls, trying to answer some general questions with help of code officers that I happen to know that are in the know. And so between my code officer friends and Dave Savage and Leo Mayo, we seem to have a handle on things. I will also say that the planning board, especially with the contractor from KBCOG, has worked very well. Right now, when people call in and they need shoreland zoning help or site review, I just connect them with Joel. He takes it from there, gets it on the agenda. They work very well together. That planning board has done 6, well, they're working on their 5th and 6th site reviews for the year. And that's, they usually don't do more than 2 or 3 a year. And so they've actually been quite busy.
Oh, am I politically correct if I say selectmen? Don't start now.
So is that the last of those liquor licenses? Okay. All right.
Employees are harassed. That's what that is. That's
Every time that dings, I have to look over here. So, Kathy, there's a 3 strikes and you're out rule. So, all right, items of communication. So, at the last meeting, I just want to remind the board that they discussed having a joint meeting with advisory on May 11th. So that's coming up in 2 weeks. And depending on where we are in how big a gathering we can have by the governor's declaration, we'll either have a combined meeting or we'll have a combined meeting in this building with some multiple rooms, using different rooms and so forth to try to get everything we can get accomplished. I will try to keep that meeting agenda as light as possible, maybe just a few consent items like we've had, and really give the time to focus on the capital budgets, because we have quite a bit in road paving, highway equipment, fire equipment, library roof. So there's quite a substantial amount of money there. To that end, both Kathy and Tammy and myself will be participating in an MMA budgeting in difficult times training that's going on tomorrow. We expect this to be very valuable to find out what other municipalities are doing when it comes to setting their budgets, holding town meeting, and most importantly, revenues. Because when it comes to revenues, it is the most challenging part of what we're looking at forecasting here. Now, to give you a little snippet of this, and I talked with the chairman, I've talked with Tammy and Kathy about this. In the budget that we're in right now, that we're finishing up the last couple of months, we had pulled ahead $400,000 out of our undesignated fund balance, and we brought that to town meeting last year. Prior to our closing down everything for COVID-19, I knew that we would only have limited funds to do that again this year. And I was only forecasting to be able to pull forward about 150,000. I'm concerned that in April and May, we're kind of eating up that 150,000 right now because we're not taking in the revenues. We normally take in about $60,000 in revenues every month in registrations. Now, will we get some of that back once we open up? Yes, but we may not get all of that back. And so to get through this fiscal year, we're using that 400,000, and I'm afraid we're eating up a little bit more. So hopefully we'll know a little more when we get to May, but I am hesitant, and Kathy and Tammy are hesitant right now to dedicate any money from undesignated fund balance to offset taxes. So what that means is you're going to have an increase to the bottom line to the taxpayer if you approve all of that capital spending. So those are the things that you and the advisory board will have to wrestle with in the next meeting. So I wanted everybody to be on the same page.
Have we got anything from the school department in the county?
We have the school department locked down. What's interesting this year is that the school will actually have their referendum vote where people come in and vote on the same day as our vote in July. So the schools won't be officially done until July, but as far as their budget being approved by the school board, that's all done. And that's about a $200,000 decrease to the town. So their budget has actually gone down. The county is an increase. I'm on the county budget committee, and we had our first meeting last week, 2 weeks ago. And it'll be a while before that budget's done, probably about another 5 or 6 weeks. But it will be an increase to the town. It'll probably be about a $30,000 or $40,000 increase to the town of Madison.
What's the increase to the town?
Simply put, it's the same as everybody else, salary increases. But a more complicated part is adjustments to jail funding. There's a cap that they can go up to that they have stayed under for years, and the commissioners are concerned if they continue to stay under that cap without raising it a little bit every year, they're gonna have to raise it a lot in a couple of years. So I can give you more information on that later. But. So last thing I wanted to talk about is, and I put in your packets, our 45-day plan, which was implemented back in the first part of April. We're about 3 weeks into it now, where we have limited staff at the town office. We're closed to the public. The library is closed to the public. We've had people working from home. We continue along that plan, but I wanted to propose a plan for opening up the town office once we got approval. What our office hinges on is the Bureau of Motor Vehicles being open. If BMV in Augusta is not open, it does not make any sense for us to open, because we will quickly run out of our supply of stickers, plates, so forth. I had Kim do some research for me. We've got about 200 stickers left to give people on their plates. And you think, oh, this should last us a while. Well, this time of year, we do about 300 registrations a month. So those stickers will be gone. And people being pent up, if we open, those registrations will be gone. If BMV is not open, it doesn't make sense for us to open. So as the governor rolls out her plan for what she looks to do, we would hope that opening up BMV would be part of that. And if we have a date for that, then we can follow suit with our date. I would recommend, as I said in your handouts there, that we look at a 2-day a week, the first couple of weeks, to roll out 2 days a week, maybe Tuesdays and Fridays. There's some staggering there.
Tim, when you say that, you're saying open the door 2 days a week?
Right.
Is that what you're saying?
Right. Open the door.
Okay.
So that, and I think the public is getting used to this right now. For example, you can't have more than 5 people in Irving's. Can't have more than 15 people in Campbell's, right? So the public's getting used to this. So if we were to open up, we would have, first of all, we would have plexiglass at the counter. We've looked into that today. We would have distancing on the floor, and we would have a sign on the door that says no more than 4 customers can be in the office at the same time. So that would be kind of our plan going forward. And as far as handling money and handling the mail and so forth, we still use the same practices that we're using now. Is anybody calling Ron Moody? Because his phone's going off now. Anybody calling Ron? Okay.
What about
The rest of us, the rest of our library, the courts, and that kind of stuff. I mean, is that something that, the same type of plan?
Everybody's kind of making this up as they go right now, and you can see that in the news as far as every different state.
I should have some more information tomorrow, according to what the governor said today. Right?
I would hope tomorrow or Wednesday, because her stay-at-home order runs out on Thursday. So I'm sure we'll have something coming up there. But that is, so I would recommend that we do 2 days a week, then move to 3 days a week, then 4, before we're finally all back to what we would consider to be a normal schedule.
I think that would be the same thing for the library too.
And that's what Julie has said.
I
Yep.
would say that would be good.
So-
Anybody else have any comments on Wise?
So this isn't gonna happen until the Department of Motor Vehicles is over.
It really can't. It doesn't make sense for us to start doing registrations until we know BMV is going to open.
But we can open library. Start with,
And I think what Julie would recommend is, she used to do a book sharing. So in other words, people could pick up and drop off books. They could call ahead. Stop doing that when we got into the thick of this. She would probably start with that. She would start offering the book sharing again and then gradually open up.
Something you might want to check into. My wife asked the doctor about gloves. He recommended get rid of the gloves because all you do is just put it from one to the next. One thing right after another. Get rid of the gloves, use your hand
Sanitizers.
sanitizer. The
Yeah.
gloves are not a good thing,
Yeah.
from what he says as a doctor.
Yeah, there's conflicting reports on gloves and masks,
Yeah.
and it's something we have to look at. And if part of it is really what makes the other person comfortable. And so I don't think we're going to do anything hard and fast on masks. I know that, and we've already been using gloves, especially with the mail. So
Sound okay?
Has anyone tried ordering anything from DMV? Because the reason I'm asking Tim is I did the rapid renewal on my registration. It took 2.5 weeks to get the stickers. So someone's working in that building somewhere.
they are, but there's no one answering the phone to order supplies.
So I don't
So
know if we can start ordering now and maybe have it by the end of May or something.
right. I know Kathy and Kim have been staying on top of that pretty well. Kathy, do you have anything to comment about BMV?
Wake her up.
Okay, I'll take that as a no.
Actually, just so you know, you guys keep cutting out. I don't have a very good connection tonight.
Okay,
I only hear bits and pieces.
Must be the wind.
okay.
All right, we will move on then. New business, number 1, set town meeting date.
So at our last meeting, we had just learned that the governor had extended the statewide election to July 14th. Kathy has checked out all the details, and she recommends that the board set the date for annual town meeting as July 13th at 7 p.m.
Like 13.
July 13th would be Monday, the 13th of July.
I'll second that to keep George around.
All right, we have a motion and a second to set the town meeting date as July 13th, 2020, 7 p.m. at the Thomas Elias Auditorium.
Did you make the motion?
Yeah.
Sure did.
Who seconded it?
Jack?
I made the motion. He seconded.
Probably second. Well, my question is, who's gonna pay me and Jack? Is that, are we gratis here?
Yeah.
All right, any other questions? Any other relevant questions?
Not that I even care.
All right, all those in favor? All in favor, the motion carries. Number 2,
Jack, we got a month of the town.
update tax acquired property.
So at a late handout, I had given you the spreadsheet that shows the 2 remaining tax acquired properties. So we did receive payment in full of all the back taxes on 54 Weston Avenue on Friday. That check's being processed and cleared. We won't do any quit claim deeds until we have everything all set. We have a couple of quit claim deeds to catch up on. The property on Lower Mills Road, I reported at the last meeting, we're continuing to work to take payments from those folks. And they're making progress. In your packets, I think you saw the letter that I sent to the representative of Gertrude Ministries, 144 Whittier Farm Road. And we also have her return receipt, so she signed for it, and so she received that letter. That letter, very similar to the letter that we sent to the owners of 54 Weston, have 30 days. So Gertrude Ministries has till May 15th to pay all the back taxes. If not, it'll go up for sale. So that is our status for tax acquired. Yeah, that's
Number
it.
3, proposed.
Okay.
We got Ernie on here, correct?
Ernie is with us.
Hi, Ernie.
Hello.
So a couple of things that I did. That extra supplemental piece I passed out happens to be a list of the 11 properties in Madison that are currently owned by Somerset Woods trustees, if you had any questions about that. The property in question is the Weston Woods and Waters, which is the former Weston Homestead land, not the building, it's the house itself at the end of Weston Avenue, but the land around it, that has been purchased by Somerset Woods trustees. And what they've asked us is if the town would be willing to lease the property from them so that the town could put that property on the town's liability insurance. So I'm sure you're all aware that municipalities are covered under the Maine tort law, which means that we have a much more limited liability. It's very difficult to sue a town. As a result, our liability insurance is much more reasonable. If a nonprofit like Somerset Woods Trustees were to try to buy liability insurance for it, it would be much more costly because they want to promote this land for lots of use. They want people to hike on it. They want people to kayak. They want the school to run cross-country races. They want this land to be used. And so as a result, it would be cost prohibitive for them to buy their own liability insurance, and they're asking if the town would lease it and therefore cover it. And this would be similar to arrangements that they have with the town of Skowhegan with properties that they own there that have playgrounds on them and trails and so forth. I'll check with Attorney Hilton. Did I cover that?
You covered most of it. In fact, it's actually not only just a homestead woodlot, but there's about 30 acres that John Warren Noyes donated to us, which is the river frontage from on the west side of Weston Avenue, headed all the way down to Tom Weston. Then we have a 30-foot wide easement from Tom Weston, which has no real bearing because it's not an ownership situation. In any event, we're looking to improve those as we can and make trails and provide this as property for recreational use by the town of Madison for people in the entire Madison area, really, on into the future. So, as Tim said, there's at least 4 or 5 properties in the Bloomfield area of Skowhegan that the town of Skowhegan leases from us. There's a ball field, there's a playground, there's a paved DB trail, if anybody knows where that is. There's the Philbick Trails, which is about a 25-acre parcel just downriver from the sewage treatment plant. DOT used to lease the rest area from us, which is along the on Route 2, just past the Great Eddy. Department of Conservation does now actually lease the boat launch, we call it Cleaver Landing, from the Somerset Trustee. So we've actually got a lease for about 50 acres to the Maine Appalachian Trail Club. They're going to be building the state headquarters for Appalachian Trail maintenance. And then we've also got a lease. We had a lease of a few acres to a bow hunters group that was had arrow, bow hunting competitions on a trail they had in our land. So we are not and they provided their own. All these organizations provide their own insurance. we are not we're a landholding organization. We certainly allow and encourage people to recreate on our property in terms of just like outback type recreation. But in terms of the kinds of more intensive recreation that we see happening for Western Woods, in terms of the cross-country teams, guys and gals using it, and we anticipate there being running competitions. I mean, all sorts of things happening there over the course of it. We anticipate educational programs, forestry programs, and what have you. I mean, it's all a potential for that location. So if anybody has any other questions, I'll certainly be pleased to answer them.
I have a question. Does that cost us any more money?
So I had Tammy talk to MMA, and to add this parcel to our already large portfolio of land doesn't really make a whole lot of difference. So
But you didn't answer my question.
how much more money does it cost, Tammy?
Under $100.
Under $100.
And the lease amount?
The lease amount would be $0 or $1.
Well, $1 a year.
$1 a year.
Typically with Skowhegan are $1 a year, and I don't know if they've ever paid it. So
Okay.
Was it a 1 year lease?
It'll be 20. Skowhegan is 20 years, right?
Well, actually, that's open to any kind of discussion. When I first came on the Somerset Trustees Board back in 2007, they were these 15-year leases, and I kind of did something similar to that. But the Appalachian Trail Council, that's a 99-year lease, and against $1 a year. So I suppose it's whatever people really want to do. If they think they want to limit it to 20, 25 years in anticipation of the fact that maybe some changes necessary down the road, then that's fine too. I think this is going to be an asset for the town of Madison for decades, if not centuries to come.
So here's 25 years.
Right. I think the example I gave them was the Runner River land lease, and that's a 25-year one.
Okay, yeah.
Oh, certainly we wouldn't do it every year. Right.
Mr. Moody.
Is this something we should take to town meeting? Let the townspeople make the yay or nay on this?
I don't believe that. Did Skowhegan take it to town meeting, or they approve it at the selectmen level?
They just approved it at the selectmen's level. There wasn't any town meeting aspect to it.
Yeah.
I might note that when I came on board in 2007, these leases hadn't been recorded. They're really very informal. And in fact, what you see is actually much more informal than what they were operating on before. So there you go.
That's 2011.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great.
How would this school using it?
Well, because it's town property, similar to, I would assume, the Preble Avenue ball fields and so forth, there wouldn't be a conflict, and there wouldn't be an issue of liability. It would either be, if somebody got hurt, it would either be something that the school dealt with or the town dealt with. I don't think there would be a overlap.
But I just want to make sure that, because we know that there's been discussions about cross-country trails for the school and so forth, that we don't do something that's going to create some kind of dissonance between us and the school, or the school and Sunset Woods or anything. I just want to make sure
Right.
that they would be on board with us.
Oh, certainly I think the school would be on board with the town leasing this property, because it makes it easier for them to work with the Somerset Woods trustees. Just as a note, if you weren't aware, right now the current cross-country trails that are behind the high school in Madison cross over onto private land, and that landowner does not want that to go on anymore. So they need a new place.
And with the school, it's the same way the softball field with just scheduling them.
Right.
So that's just, that time is X'd out for
Right. Right.
So what you're telling me is that the school would be using this land if we go along with this program?
If we get back to school, we're gonna try it this fall.
This would not,
But that makes a big difference with me.
Yep, yeah, it's gonna be something that we're going to try to pull off, and we have some obstacles, but we're working on it. Ernie is encouraging us quite a bit.
Okay, because like I said, that makes a difference to me. But I'm still a little unsettled on whether we should make that decision or we should make that decision at town meeting. That's just my opinion, that's all.
Mr. Elias.
I have just one more comment. Like Ernie was saying, the leasing has been kind of lax. So for insurance purposes, we're gonna have a good lease, right?
yes.
Because our insurance is covering it. We need something to show that we've done that.
And MMA would require documentation.
But we at least look at 25 years.
Yeah.
I would think so.
So
So,
I'd like to make it a motion.
I'll make that a motion that we enter into a 25-year lease with Somerset Woods trustees for what they're asking, so that our liability insurance can cover that. For $1.
It's already,
For $1 for 25 years?
it's already,
$1 a year, okay.
I'll second that.
All right, we have a motion and a second.
We need payment up front.
Enter into a lease agreement.
What'd he say?
he wants payment up front.
Yeah, I forgot about it.
We'll take it out of George's last check for going extra month as a selectman.
Yeah.
Entering into a lease agreement with Somerset Woods Trust for the Western Woods and Water area.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
Who's seconded that?
Chuck, that would cover the cost of the. putting it together.
Right. So that's a couple of questions. One, Ernie, this lease would only pertain to this parcel of land, right? This has no bearing on the other holdings that Somerset Woods Trustees has?
No, not yet. I mean, I guess one of the things I thought about in retrospect was, there's the carry-in boat launch up on the River Road. But we don't need to now. I mean, that's, we can deal with it some other time. The Jacobs Pines over in East Madison, there's a number of other places. But we're only actually dealing with Western Woods and Waters right now.
And I think the difference from what I see on that property as to your other parcels is the amount of activity that you want to encourage to take place on this parcel. Right.
Yeah.
And do you know a good law firm that could draw up this lease for us? At no charge.
No charge.
At no charge.
All right. Seeing no other questions. Seeing one more question.
Yeah, now let me understand this. We are talking about this one parcel of land. This lease is covering one parcel of land, am I right?
That's right.
Yep.
It would be account number 2280, right in the middle there. 275 acres. Yeah.
Well, Tim, I want this to also cover the parcel that the portion.
Noise.
Orange noise parcel.
Right. So the one down the bottom too. So those two parcels, about 300 acres altogether. So yes, that would be why I would need somebody in the know to draw up this lease. That's land along the river that goes between the boat landing up to this property.
Oh, okay.
So they're connected.
All right, so that's what we're talking about.
Yeah.
All right,
Yeah.
we ain't talking, that's not including all this other.
Exactly.
Right.
All right.
Thank you.
All right,
That's what I
seeing no
wanted
other
to-
questions. All those in favor? All in favor, the motion carries. Thank you, Ernie.
Thank you, folks.
Yep.
Mr. Chairman, I have a question.
Yes.
This $400,000 that Somerset Woods on, that we don't get taxes on, does that also come off in our assessment to the state? Where are you paying?
Right, because they're owned by a nonprofit.
So that should come off in our.
It's not, it's right, it's not included in our. That's right. Yeah, no, Shirley's gone home. So.
All right, any other questions? Okay, we'll discuss an amendment to the vehicles and traffic ordinance.
So I was talking to the road commissioner the other day, and he reminded me there are 2 existing stop signs that are not listed in our ordinance. This is not a huge deal that requires a public hearing or anything like that. You simply have the authority to say add these two intersections to the ordinance. And then we take the ordinance to town meeting and saying we're adding these two intersections to the list of all the stop signs in town. So those two intersections are at the end of Spruce Street, where it intersects with Ash Street heading towards the brush dump. There's no stop sign. So if you're coming down Spruce Street, there's no stop sign to go onto Ash Street. And then Town Road and Fall Street. That's an existing, though both of those have stop signs now, but they're not included in the ordinance. So we need a motion to put those into the ordinance at town meeting.
All right, we have a motion. All right, second.
I'll second.
All right, so we have a motion, a second to take the town meeting, the addition to the ordinance of a stop sign at Myrtle Street.
Nope.
No.
Ash Street,
Ash Street,
Spruce.
Spruce and Ash.
Yep.
And then
Town and Fall.
Town and Fall. All right.
Is that
Any other
right?
Questions? Take that over. Favor? All in favor?
As long as Ash Street and Myrtle ain't in there, I'd say, yeah.
We're putting it back, George. We're putting it back.
No, you're not putting it back.
Mr. Reed.
Can't have enough.
Mr. Elias.
Yeah. Well, no, I gotta talk to Jeff. Hey, Jeff, is your phone available to call tomorrow?
Anytime you want to, George, day or night.
Yeah. Is that 399, 3100? 5100? Right? What's your phone number?
Just keep dialing it till he answers.
Call up the garage, George.
Huh?
Call up to the garage.
Okay, all right. I'll call the garage.
5378.
Gotcha, 5378.
I'd make him go up.
I'm gonna remember because I marked it down.
You gotta go throw the paper away.
Mr. Savage, anything?
Um,
Michelle, I'm all set. Any citizens' concerns? Seeing none, we'll look for a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
All right.
Motion and second to adjourn. All those in favor? All in favor, we are adjourned at 7:08.
Thanks, folks.
Cut the power.